My good greetings to you, good fellows out there. I humbly extend my greetings to you who are ready to sort of go along with me in my continuous discussion about faith in the terms of religion and culture as one key thing that stands in the way of life. And I know there are people who will disagree with me, but I'm sorry to sort of be different with whatever probably their opinions are. Now, it's not just a differ, but at the end of the day, you have to really analyze it in a very realistic way to see whether what I'm saying makes sense or not. We normally have to depend on I do have a red letter Bible, which to do with the Christian way of worship, and there was the Quran we also have with the Islamic approach of worship. They are all religious books. Just to touch on a few things in terms of what I understand. I mean, if I'm saying that religion and culture is an issue, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to sort of pull out to you, to pull this idea to you to understand that these are books that we claim has come from a divine God. It could be a singular approach or a plural approach. People might approach it thinking, okay, God is, they all have their individual way of believing in a God. So somehow it becomes plural, not just one God, but many gods. Others who approach it as one singular God. Those who go in a singular approach, I normally see them as very lunatic, a crazy idea. Because if you look at the books, you can tell straight that it's not one God. It could be in a different period of time. Some of them were clashing with other periods, whichever way it is, and it certainly isn't a new God. Some will say that it's because a new generation was coming and God was going against the previous one because of errors against the scripture. Now, the scripture of God is always the same. If they say it's one God, in the same book it refers that he cannot change his own words. So definitely the one God theory compared in relating to the books is quite a great big error, or great crazy sort of relations that you cannot really blend it together and think it as being one God in the terms of the books. If I claim that, if I'm claiming that religion and culture is an issue, I'm also looking at it from the viewpoint that leadership or human guardianship or the human handling of religion. If you call religion, you really saying something that regard the idea of the people who believe in God and they have rise through the rank to sort of demonstrate their ability of knowledge and their relationship to the divine God, and they will sort of give their interpretation as something which sort of stands and everyone should sort of believe and accept. Because of this reason, for a man to have and handle religion is very much a risky venture, or it is not as safe as we probably will think it to be, compared to even our normal secular way of doing things. Politics today, for instance, at least we know it's not the best, but we understand and we accept that it is not hypocritically seen in general terms. In terms of rulership, we know it's people who are ruling. They come up with all the rules. People who sort of come up with ideas thinking it will work. So it's more of a human approach, which is more something that we can point finger at. If a president or a leader or a politician goes wrong, we can tell that he has gone wrong based on the fact that he was elected there. He was responsible for his actions and his decisions and whatever it is that he took. He swore an oath to do something. But when you come to religion, you have not seen the divine being. and he is the one in authority, and his words are in the book, and there are leaders who claim to represent him. So whatever they say, they actually are not saying it in the context that it is their own words. It is the words that they have sort of heard or somehow been commanded by the authority to sort of enforce it on you. And they sort of exempt themselves in so many ways because they are at the leadership role. And so if there is any sort of punishment or any kind of rejection, it should come from the authority. It's God, the one who has put them there. The authority who has put them there is the only one who has the authority over them to sort of punish them or to do anything. So it is not about voting. It's not about the people, the audience, or the congregation saying something against their head. It's not done. It's not done here or there. There are others who disagree. There are some groups also who will say that it is very much a practice that they sort of see themselves doing. In some charismatic groups, maybe they decide to sort of complain about the leadership or sort of have the right to talk about it. It depends on the level of it. But in ancient times and in today, and even the books that we read, it's very clear. The role of a religious leader stands out in certain ways, that there is nothing that should be above them except God, the divine God, which makes sense because God is the one that is the head of that religion or that group, and God cannot be seen. It cannot be, so how can you sort of touch a leader or a religious leader? You have no right. You can't even touch a religious leader until God shows himself or God is there to do something. So they get away with whatever they want to get away with, untouchable. Yet they are worse off, just like we are. They are human beings and they are full of errors like we are. It's not a secret. We know that when you get, anybody can be in a situation of ending up in a religious leadership and can tell for himself. Everybody can tell himself that the weaknesses of a man is something which is undeniable. So based on that, I feel that religion is more riskier in leadership if we sort of want to surrender our lives and trust our whole future in the hands of religion. Then we are doomed for good. We are really doomed for good. I mean, you cannot. And if God himself is in charge of religion, if God is ruling religion, if God sits right there and then that's no problem, because he's ready to take the blame. Something comparable to that's how sometimes I define the Christian religion, or that is what I truly saw in the idea of Christ or Jesus, the death of Christ. I saw it as a means of God demonstrating that he is responsible for the wrongs and the rights, and he has taken it upon himself to make that sacrifice himself. He came to, in a way, to say he's sorry, or he's sort of acknowledging to the wrongs of life, that the things that has happened is because of his error or his shortcomings, or something that he didn't do right, or something that he sort of let loose, and it happened, because he's always constantly on guard. Then certain things shouldn't have happened. So that's how sometimes I view that if I had to approach religion, that is one thinkable idea I would consider, to see that, okay, his death is the meaning that if he is God, then in his death, God demonstrating that he is taking responsibility of everything, not because we did the wrong thing, but because it was his own idea, it was his own invention, that he decided to sacrifice his life to sort of prove that, yes, but who is he sacrificing his life? Will God ever sacrifice his life in a sense of for the devil to sort of torment him? God will never give himself to the devil to torment him. Why would God do that? God is never under the devil. Neither does his son. If he has a son, his son will be under the devil. The positive side of life will never be under the negative side. I mean, how can we even consider that or think that something that is positive, something that is righteous, something that is holy, something that is authoritative, is authority, that there is nothing beneath it? There's nothing above it. That authority should go under, or sort of lower him or herself so much, to the extent of letting his enemy control or sort of make his decisions for him. I don't think it's something we